It appears this chapter was better than I thought. But what is happening in the cover page or the cover story? I don't know. And quite frankly, at this point, I don't really care. This is a really good chapter. Like, honestly, this was a fantastic chapter. I read it on Friday, read it a few times, and you know, the Kanjuro stuff was a bit weird, but again, going back, rereading, rewatching anime clips, seeing Robin and Ryunosuke in that moment, and just the slight nuances with Kanjuro's character. I don't know, it seems like he just jumped up the ladder as far as my favorite scabbard. He's not my favorite, but he's probably top 3. And the reason why he's top 3 is because he knows his role, he knows how to play it, and he understands sacrifice. And we'll talk a bit more about Kanjuro towards the end, but I think as a follower, like if you're a leader, if you have something of note and you want followers, Kanjuro is someone you would like to follow you. But with the Viz, it brings about a new light, and I have some thoughts I would like to share, not only about Kanjuro, but about Orochi, Kaido, things about Kinemon, but of course we'll finish it off with the monster trio, or a trio of monsters, which I think I was super excited for, and every time I look at that panel, I just get hyped again because I just know what they have in store for us. It's going to be ballistic, just amazing and just tremendous. It's going to be tremendous. But anyway, to reiterate, I absolutely love the conversation between Orochi and Kaido. I think for most of the flashback, or most of Wano in general, Orochi has somewhat been a joke, but seeing that Orochi, and again, he has had help with the old hag and the old man with Barto's devil fruit. They have names, but it doesn't matter. He's grown in terms of an antagonist for me. Because from the beginning, remember when everybody was talking about Orochi was delusional about the 20 years and people coming back, but he was actually correct. It seems like he's been a few steps ahead, or a step ahead of Oden and the Scabbards every step of the way. Of course, that's because of Kanjuro, but his caution, it leads to results, because Kaido's even questioning him and the things he's saying. Like, are you sure about this power? And that's absolutely weird coming from somebody that can transform into a fucking dragon. What do you mean if he's sure? You think a power like that cannot exist? But I think also the flashback and the Wano chapters, they've been slowly establishing Kaido's character, because Kaido went from just a brute that wanted to die to now we're trying to figure out exactly what his motives are and what exactly is he searching for. It's not just about dying for him. If it was just that, I'm sure he'd be dead already. Kaido's honor has been called into question, his motivations. Now he has questions for the Kozuki survivors, or people that were transferred from the past to 20 years now. So we know he was interested in the One Piece in some way. Kinemon hinted towards that, but I really like how these recent chapters, or the chapters of the flashback, have been establishing Kaido's character, and it's really made me care more about him, because that's something I questioned. Like, if Luffy defeats Kaido with what we knew about him back then, it would feel a bit empty because we don't care about Kaido too much. And people always say, well, if you don't care about a character, why does it matter? I think it's just a personal preference, and some people even share the same sentiments. The more you care about a character, the more you're invested, the more you care about their downfall. Maybe you're rooting for them to survive. It's a lot that goes into it when you're invested in a character. If it's a character that you genuinely don't care about, it's like, all right, well, he's defeated, let's move on. But Kaido, I feel like I'm developing a connection to his character, because you can understand being that strong and just trying to find some ambition, something to reach for. And of course, people say pirates, you should try to become Pirate King, but I don't think it's that simple for just regular pirates, or even the Yonko. It's a lot of things you have to overcome. So for Kaido, I'm really enjoying that. Things are just lining up as well with Orochi and having Kanjuro notifying him of things that were happening. Even Dressrosa things are starting to make sense. Let's go back to chapter 700. Here we have Kinemon explaining to us what happened to him before he got to Punk Hazard, or where his destination was. He was sent out to Zou, but he would not tell them who he was running from. Now we know it was Kaido and Orochi. And I thought this panel was also interesting, in which coincidence was mentioned, because Law was headed to Zou, his crewmates were on Zou. The Straw Hats, they had an alliance with Law, headed to Dressrosa to take down Doflamingo, who has an alliance with Kaido, or was a subordinate of Kaido, or I think more so working with Kaido. And then it goes back to the Joy Boy stuff with Luffy, where it's like things are just falling into place, and then the 20-year thing. It's funny that that's mentioned there. But anyway, Caesar also seems to be intertwined with all this, with the Smile Fruits and with Doflamingo. So I wonder if Caesar will play another part in Wano, because we know there'll be chemical weapons, because it's obvious that's how Jack fights, and Queen. So if Caesar pops up, and he will be a part of the alliance, obviously, to kind of combat those, chemical weapons and just chemical devastation, that would actually be pretty good. They were pursued by Doflamingo and his people, which obviously Kaido, after Orochi told him this, based on what Kanjuro told him, they knew they were coming. Momonosuke got on the wrong ship to Punk Hazard. Kanjuro sacrificed himself for Kinemon. So then, with him not being questioned, it makes sense, because he sacrificed himself for Kinemon. And he was saying, Momonosuke is the one who matters. Go get him. It doesn't matter. It's just all about Momonosuke. That man was acting. Say what you want, but that dude was acting. And even here, seeing the Straw Hats celebrate him, say, oh my God, what a man, that Kanjuro. All right, we'll help save him too. So I wonder how they're going to feel once they realize that Kanjuro was the person that essentially led to the Raizo is safe moment. So in several ways, I really enjoyed Kanjuro. Like, Kanjuro led to not only Raizo is safe, but also Robin and Ryunosuke. But then the awesome moment at the end of the chapter where Kanjuro is calling them out on their BS of not actually approaching the issues that were right in front of them. And I don't want to get too philosophical or sentimental here, but people in real life, they do that, where things are obvious and it's right in front of you, but because you fear it to be true, you don't talk about it. You just dance around the subject, dance around the topic until it just hits you right in your face and you're like, you can't avoid it anymore. Kanjuro pointed it out, and I think that's why it hit so deep for Kinemon, where he just struck Kanjuro down instantly, because he was speaking the truth. Like, you guys saw it. How would they get back to Zou? You can't just find Zou. You needed a Vivre card. So how is it happening? Didn't you guys question it? And Kiku even said, like, Kinemon, like, this is not like you. I think I appreciate his moment of truth as well, or just truthfulness. Based off of talking to my friends as well, there's something else that you could view as symbolism here. And this is Kanjuro talking to Orochi. And something we talked about was whether Orochi got to Kanjuro before or after he met Odin. And I'll talk about that after this point. But Orochi says Kanjuro is a person who was born into a popular theater troupe, right? So his family, that's all they knew. They were about the theater and performing arts, but his parents were killed on stage. And this was due to the fact that they were connected to the Kurozumi, obviously. Well, they were Kurozumi. But the only thing he knew was theater. And so after losing his family and being just adrift, as it says, he was searching for a role. In life, he could not exist without having a role. So again, he's the perfect person that Orochi could stumble upon to play out this role. This not only shows that Kanjuro was, as portrayed in the chapter, like a blot of ink that you could paint however you want. Orochi is a masterful manipulator. And of course, he got that from the old hag. And I think it's some symbolism here, having the old hag and the old man in the same panel in which he's manipulating Kanjuro to do his bidding. Knowing his backstory, knowing how you can manipulate him, that's to his credit, because he got the perfect person that could help him. I think there's something in manipulation. It's not just about knowing the person, but it's about saying the correct things at the right time, knowing what they want to hear. And he did that for Kanjuro. Orochi, no, he doesn't get a lot of credit as an antagonist or as a villain, because he's been mostly helped throughout his career or throughout his just throughout his Shogun era. But he is resourceful, and even said that, you know, for him allying with Kaido, it was because of the things he did beforehand. Again, aided by Kurozumi. Something that I also thought about was that how Team Kurozumi is where it's at. Like, honestly, they ride for each other. They have people in places that you need. So I think if I had to pick Kurozumi or Kozuki, at this point, the Kurozumi, they're just so much better, because the Kozuki and the Scabbards, the Daimyo, everyone just seems so inept. Like, they're just dropping the ball here and there just over and over. And even Odin, after he got back from the travels with Roger and Whitebeard, specifically Roger, it seems like he was just living in the future. Like, everything that was happening right now was not as important as the future. But that's a conversation for another day. Again, Kanjuro, as you now know, is the traitor, and his meaning of sacrifice, his understanding of sacrifice, again, going back manipulation and just how he grew up, him playing out that role and being willing to die with his Scabbards and with his people. I feel like he considered them his friends, but to him, he was stage acting. I know people are saying, well, maybe this is not Kanjuro's true appearance, but based on what was said by Orochi, he said he has no mind of his own. He lived as a perfect vassal of Kozuki until I stopped him, and he sent me information all the while. He was so faithful, it was almost eerie. So I think that confirms that Kanjuro was already with Odin before Orochi approached him. But because of his backstory or his background, Orochi was able to manipulate him over to his side. And again, he's saying because of that and how faithful he was, it was scary. So I think this also points out or highlights that Kanjuro can be manipulated, and he can still be turned. He can still be changed. I don't think the ink on the page for Kanjuro is dry yet. I think he can still turn it around. And I think because he's a master chameleon himself, he might play a role in helping the Scabbards at the end of it all. It would be weird again, but he is an actor. So backstabbing Orochi and those people, if it serves a purpose or serves a role, I think he'll be willing to fulfill it, because he said he didn't hate the Scabbards. He didn't hate Odin and those guys. His allegiance as a Kurozumi, and you know, his dedication to a role, that's what's important here. Again, the Supernova trio, the monster trio, the real monster trio, the trio of monsters, however you want to say it, how they all mobilized, how they all came in their own way, I think is perfect. It speaks to their character, their portrayal, and just how impactful they're going to be in Wano. I have a lot to say about them, but I think it deserves its own thing. But seeing these three again, from the auction house to post Marineford, I'm excited. I'm really excited for Law, Luffy, and Kid. I think the last time I was so excited for a trio was probably, I don't know, Marineford. Once the three admirals like stopped Whitebeard, it was like, okay. This trio is amazing. I can't think of another like trio I was so excited for. Maybe at one point was Big Mom's Commanders after seeing Katakuri and Cracker, but then Smoothie didn't do anything, and it was like, okay. But anyway, fantastic chapter. I loved it even more after reading it today. But guys, give me your thoughts. What do you think about the chapter? I absolutely loved it. Give me your thoughts. Kanjuro is a traitor. Again, shout out to Marco, the One Piece theorist. He did make a theory about Kanjuro being a traitor and listed out so many different things as to why he was. Again, myself and O'Hara, we made a video, I think probably the same day his dropped or a day after, something like that. But I didn't think we saw the theory. But our conclusion at the end of that video was that Kanjuro probably was the traitor. Or I think O'Hara convinced me of it, actually. But shout out to Marco the theorist. Undoubtedly one of the best, if not the best, theorist in the One Piece community. He doesn't upload as much anymore, but every theory he uploads it's something he truly believes in, and it's a lot of research that goes into it. So shout out to Marco. But yeah, the traitor has been revealed. An amazing, impactful chapter. Let me know your thoughts. What did you like? What did you dislike, if any? Make sure to follow me on Twitter at BragoDAce. Follow me on Instagram at bragody.ace. Shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Like and subscribe again. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.